Welcome to the Wild Ones Podcast, episode 20. I'm Jimmy, this is Francis, and this is the show where we chat about bike stuff.
I want to start off the show by offering our deepest condolences.
Condolences?
Yep. To one of the weirdest bike handlebars in history.
I'm assuming you mean the gravel thingy-majiggies by Canyon.
Double-decker. The double-decker. Officially named the double-decker. Maybe.
Probably not.
Canyon launched their hover bar on the original Grail in 2018, and they finally produced a bike without it, and it's no longer available. The handlebar was designed to reduce vibration on gravelly terrain, as well as providing additional hand placement options if you have four arms. It was pretty divisive when it was released. Some people liked it, others thought it was a massive gimmick aimed at getting attention for the brand, which worked. And it definitely did that. Canyon has now released the 2023 version of the Grail, and the hover bar has been replaced by a regular integrated drop bar to be more aero.
You know, you said if you've got four arms.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought about was the big dude in Mortal Kombat. He's got four arms.
Has he got four arms?
Yeah. Do you know, there's the massive thing.
I was more,
four arms.
I was
So
more
he
of a
could- he could
Tekken
use
guy
it.
than a Mortal Kombat guy. I know some of the characters,
Shows your age.
and I've seen the movie.
Which movie?
But is there multiple
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat movies?
Yeah. There's at least
Wow.
two. I think there maybe is two in a film.
Do they have both?
Sorry,
have
two films in a series.
I don't remember the four-arm guy from the film.
That's disappointing. I thought you were cool.
They've added some new storage features to the Grail instead. Down tube storage in a small compartment on the down tube that has a small tool pack and a mini pump. It also comes with a strapless frame bag that mounts via Fidlock magnets at the base of the head tube.
That does sound amazing. I'm a bit upset for because how many bike bags are made by small independent businesses that now one of the biggest cycling brands in the world are going to start putting out of business?
Totally.
Classic
Totally.
direct-to-consumer brand screwing over the little guys.
Even the bags that are being made at the moment by the smaller brands that will fit the Canyon, the new Canyon. If you owned one, you wouldn't want to use them, would you? Because you want it to all match and you want it to be. I'm sure the best fitting bags will be the Canyon ones.
Yeah.
The Canyon.
I'm sure it's a great product, but
Kind of sad.
I always feel bad for the little guy.
Yeah. They say they've made these changes because the gravel scene has significantly evolved since the original Grail launched back in 2018. They now classify the Grail as a gravel race bike after introducing the Grizzle in 2021 as their more adventure-oriented gravel bike. Personally, I think it's good that they got rid of those double-decker bars because, in my experience, I rode Lawrence's bike and they wobble everywhere. Having said that, he had a bar bag on, and there was no way we could pack his bike. We were on this trip in Vietnam. We tried 10 different ways of packing his bike, different stuff, light stuff in the front bar bag. No matter what we did, you got speed wobble and the bars just move side to side.
That's what you mean by wobble, speed wobble. So actually, stability-wise, they were rubbish.
So anytime he took it's fine when you're holding onto the handlebars, but as soon as you took your hands off the bars and you're sitting up and you're doing stuff, his bike would just start going. Whoop, 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 whoop.
You're saying this problem only existed when he was no-handing?
Yes.
Well, it's not that big a deal then.
Well, it is if you're Lawrence because he barely likes. He just sits up. He sits up. He's very relaxed. He has his little tea. Or he has a hot chocolate, actually. He doesn't drink anything with caffeine in.
Right.
He has his little hot chocolate and newspaper, and that's how he rides along.
I think there might be caffeine in chocolate.
Not the ones that he drinks.
Right, okay. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the double-decker bars. I think they would... I was talking to Emily about this yesterday, and I likened them to... Imagine you're sitting in a car, no good for you because you don't know how to drive, and you've got a steering wheel on top of your steering wheel. It's just like,
Unnecessary.
It's like Joseph and Joseph products. It's creating a solution for something that isn't
the only reason they exist is marketing, and now we're talking about it on a podcast, Jimmy. So
I think
you win, Canyon.
The new bar has got a weird name, like double drop bar. And I was looking at it.
Where's the double?
It's just a normal bar.
Yeah.
It's like a gravel bar. It's flared and things like that. But as far as I can tell, it's normal. But if you think about it, double drop. It has drops, one on each side. There's two of them. So in fact, we should be calling all drop bars double drop bars.
They're now officially, from today onwards,
Double drop bars.
known as double drop bars.
I think I worked out what the double drop was.
Oh, yeah?
So you know how usually the top part of it would be straight? I think that drops down slightly and then you have the hoods. So it's a drop, and then a drop. Does that
Really?
make sense?
Oh, I want to try them. I wonder if you slide off.
Sounds silly to me.
Playing devil's advocate, you guys are obsessed with redshift and suspension stems and the idea of vibration loss. We talked about that. You know, obviously this came out in 2018 when the gravel scene was very, very small, but they're thinking about vibration loss. So, I mean, a bad take on it looks really weird, but maybe they got something right in the innovation side of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's good that people are trying things. But surely you design that product and go, this could be good for some people, but surely people are going to... It's just like... It just doesn't feel right. You just look at it and go like, that is weird. It's not exciting. It's not like... You don't look at it and go, that looks like fun to use. You look at it and go like, it's just... Like, where do I put my hands?
Do you look at all the memes that came out when that was released?
No.
And it was just... Someone had photoshopped like 10 bars on top of each other.
Yeah.
So, RIP, double-decker handlebars. Gone but not forgotten. Do you like double-deckers?
All right. I'm assuming you mean the chocolate bar rather than the bus,
Yes.
because my answer applies to both.
Fair. On a different note, have you seen the rumours about Wiggle chain reaction?
Yes.
The online retailer, known for their cheap deals, is apparently on the brink of going bust due to financial crisis involving its parent company. The parent company, Signa Sports, not Sigma Sports, Signa Sports, United, have had 150 million euros of funding pulled. It looks like this is having a knock-on effect for Wiggle. Industry rumours are circulating that they have stopped paying suppliers, cancelled orders, and are not receiving goods until further notice. In the last couple of days, they've launched an early Black Friday sale on their website offering 60% off on some products. However, some experts are warning customers to pay on credit cards so that they're covered in the event orders are not delivered. Credit card companies only offer protection for individual items costing over £100 usually and under £3,000 in the event the goods don't arrive. Check with your bank before you buy stuff.
So I tried doing a bit of digging on this, and it looks like Signa Sports, as the parent company, have a really, really complicated, large, sophisticated network of companies, which at the scale of these businesses is relatively normal. It's, you know, there's obviously not that much public information available, but it seems like companies at the top cascade money down to companies at the bottom for them to be able to operate. For whatever reason, they've decided to stop funding companies lower down, and therefore companies lower down are running out of money and inevitably going bust. Wiggle Chain Reaction must be one of the biggest online retailers in cycling in the world. Well, not just cycling, you know, they're massive in triathlon, running, loads of other stuff. They've got loads of brands that they own, like Vitus bikes, which they spent a load of money on not that long ago, DHB clothing, which are all Signa brands. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens over the next couple of years, because it feels like they're all about to implode. But what we don't know is, are they scaling back? Are they just reducing the size of their business because people aren't buying as much stuff as they have done historically? Are they just removing some of the brands? Like, for example, are they willing to get rid of Vitus? Because I think the American Vitus operations has already been closed down, but are still going to keep the website. We don't know at this point. There is the possibility of some bargains. I had a look at some of the group sets, and there's some pretty decent price group sets on there. But to be fair, Wiggle has always had cheap group sets because they've been bashing up the industry for God knows how many years now.
It's hard to feel sorry for them.
Well, yeah. Well, it's hard to feel sorry for the people at the top. It's very easy to feel sorry for probably the thousands of staff which found out with a couple of days' notice, by the way, you're not going to have a job in the next couple of weeks.
Totally.
And that presumably is thousands of people in countries all over the world. They've got operations in this country. They've got loads of stuff in Europe. They've got loads of stuff in America. There's going to be thousands of people which are going to lose their job, which is sad.
Potentially, they haven't entered administration yet. It's just kind of rumours circulating that they're on the brink.
Well, one of the ones that I read said that they have closed down American operations and the staff have been told that their jobs are over.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So people definitely started.
But that's the thing.
Do you think
it is all rumours at this point.
Do you think the rumors themselves, we're talking about it on a podcast, this is going to spook people? I'm not going to order anything from Wiggle after hearing this news.
I think it goes both ways. You know, like the risk adverse will not, and the less risk adverse will. So I'm already going, well, I'm probably gonna take a punt on a group set.
You reckon?
Yeah.
A lot of people won't. A lot of people won't be so into cycling that they see the news. A lot of customers will just be Googling a 105 group set and it will still come up, especially if they're discounting them big time. So we'll see.
Didn't they do a rebrand recently as well?
A rebound.
Rebrand.
Oh, yeah. So they've changed color. It used to be, Wiggle was always the orange and black website, wasn't it? And very recognizable. Chain Reaction was blue.
White and blue.
Which they ended up both having identical products on, despite being different websites to begin with. I think Wiggle bought Chain Reaction.
Yes, and then it became Wiggle Chain Reaction.
It became Wiggle Chain Reaction.
Merged.
So they're essentially the same website. However, they rebranded. Chain Reaction stayed the same, blue, but with a slightly different interface. Wiggle changed big time. It looked like Wish.
Yes, Wish also rebranded and they ended up picking the same colours.
Oh, the first time I went on it, I thought I was on the wrong website. Thought I clicked the wrong thing.
It's interesting because they'll have spent a lot of money on that.
Must have.
So they really haven't been expecting this to happen. The people on the front line.
Mm-hmm.
What does this mean for the industry as a whole? I think a lot of people will argue that it's good because it might mean that independent shops get a bit more power back.
Yeah.
They've been on the ropes for a long time, and a lot of indie shops have gone out of business over the last decade. Not directly, but indirectly because of things like Canyon's direct-to-consumer model, Wiggle's direct-to-consumer model, Wiggle putting pressure, Wiggle being like the Tesco or Walmart probably of cycling, in that they are buying so much stuff at a point that they could go to people like Shimano and go, right, oh, that's your price, is it? Well, how about we buy everything, give us a better price? And, they were infamous for selling group sets, especially Shimano group sets, for less than an independent bike shop could get them at trade.
It was always grey market as well, wasn't it? So it would turn up. I bought a group set from there before, and it would just turn up in bags.
In a box.
Grey bags, yeah. Instead of the properly packaged stuff.
It's bonkers, isn't it? So I think in the short term, it will probably be bad for the industry. In the longer term, it hopefully will be good for the industry. Because, independent bike shops, a lot of the time, are very valuable. Like, if you manage to find, we have Backyard Bike Shop with Nick Vieri, and he just knows everything. He legitimately does. No matter how much you think you know, he will know more about it. Like, you go, I think I want a new bottom bracket, and he'll talk about bearings for like 40 hours.
Yeah.
And you're like, please don't. I don't want to hear about the bearings. Just put a good bottom bracket in. Like, they have so much value. They are experts. And yes, it costs money, but in the long run, it's cheaper. You're getting better products. You're getting better service. The chances are something goes a little bit funny with your bike, and because you're a customer of the last 4 or 5 years, you go, do you know what? I've actually got this issue with my bike, and they just fix it for you straight away, and you're back out again. They charge you nothing. In the bigger picture, like, you're getting a better product from an independent bike shop.
It's hard to think ahead like that, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Even we have bought, despite having great relationships with bike shops and knowing that down the line, then they will get fixed for free. Or if there's a problem with the warranty, they'll just do it for you.
Yeah.
You just rock up and they'll switch out the parts and then they'll sort the warranty themselves. There's so many benefits, yet the temptation is there. When Wiggle exists, websites like Wiggle and Chain Reaction, the temptation is there, and for some reason you're lured in by the price, and that's it.
Yeah.
Despite it probably costing you more if something does go wrong. And stuff goes wrong. Bike stuff goes wrong.
Yeah. And the compatibility thing as well. I think
Or you
that's
buy the wrong thing.
the biggest loss of money I've had is probably in compatibility, where you'll buy, you'll think a chain will work, and you fit it, and then it doesn't work, and then you can't return it, so then you have to spend an extra 30 quid or whatever on a different chain because you just thought it'd work, or bottom brackets. And the problem is you've attempted to fit it, so you can't return it.
Yeah.
And you just have this box of stuff that you've inevitably bought incorrectly. Headsets, the amount of headsets I incorrectly bought over all the headset bearings over the years is just ridiculous.
Yeah, one day we'll eBay it. One day.
Oh, it's all long gone. Long gone.
This moves us on to our big question of the week, which is very relevant. Has bike stuff become too expensive?
Oh, it's just a tough one to answer, isn't it? Like, yes and no. The answer is yes and no.
The answer is yes and no.
Is there realistically any bike in the world that is worth £15,000? I would say probably yes, but not as many as there are for sale.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, my first thought is, what could potentially be worth £15,000? The fastest time trial bike for triathlon in the world. That could be worth a lot of money.
To someone who's competing and it's going to benefit them.
Yeah, so you literally spend that money and you are faster, guaranteed. Like that would potentially be worth the money.
Yeah.
Bike for riding recreationally, do you need anything more than a sub £1,000 bike, like the sort of bikes that we've been exploring? No. But then £1,000 is still a lot of money. So like, is it too expensive? Yes. But there is ways of it being a good value proposition. I think the biggest challenge that we've had over the years is a decade ago, 105 was not very good. It was okay. Whereas 105 now is like better than the 105 we used to have 10 years ago. So getting used to group sets that are in their range lower than what we historically thought of as not being great is like quite challenging.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of roadies out there which will go like, well, I couldn't possibly have a group set that's under 105. That would be like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what we have learned is they are actually really good.
Yeah. Cheap stuff is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
For £350, you can get a bike which is extremely good and you can do any road ride you want on it. Unless you're like want to race.
And if you did want to race, you could get something really good under £1,000.
True.
And you probably need to make some tweaks.
Yeah.
But you could spend...
You'd have to spend a little bit more money on it to get it.
All right, so sub £1,500, you could get a phenomenally fast bike.
Mm-hmm.
Not the best or the fastest, but it would be very, very good. And to me, that is why I don't think everything's got too expensive. I think the minimum expectation of a person is now too expensive. Like if I was like, right, I've got rid of all of my bikes, I'm going to go and buy a brand new road bike. Mm-hmm. The bike that I would default to is probably now £10,000, which I would not ever pay, ever. But the one that I would look at and go, that's the right bike for me, would be £10,000. I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah.
So what I have to do now is change my expectation of what I want. Mm-hmm. And it would be something that isn't in line with what I think or have been marketed to wanting.
The difference between a £3,000 bike and a £10,000 bike is so minimal. It would only matter to someone who is relying on it for something, either personal, getting your personal best and it really means that much to you, trying to get a KOM and it really means that much to you, or it's your job and you're racing and the difference is going to be, in that you're racing for top 10 and there might be a difference there.
But if you are trying to get a com or you're trying to do a race at an amateur level, that doesn't justify spending an extra £7,000 to get a couple of seconds.
Some people it will though. Some people will be prepared to.
Yes, if you are wealthy and buying a £10,000 bike is basically the same position as buying a £3,000 bike. Whatever, do whatever you want. Why not get the best you can afford? Mm. But for real people, they don't need that £10,000 bike, but we all want it, and that's kind of like the hard thing, isn't it?
And that in that space, things have got more expensive.
Yeah,
especially in the since the pandemic, last 3-4 years.
Yeah,
things have just. There was a point where you couldn't spend £10,000 on a bike.
Correct.
It was impossible.
Yeah.
Now it's very easy to spend £10,000 on a bike.
I remember when Specialized started pulling stuff out that was around like the $8,000 mark, and I just remember thinking like, what the hell is happening?
Where's it come from?
Like, who is buying that?
It's electric gears, wireless gears, tubeless tires, disc brakes. It's all those things that add to the cost, and it's it's not the frame sets per se. Like carbon's been good for quite a while. But it's all the extra.
The frames, you can buy a frame set now for £6,000, whereas premium frames 10 years ago were like £3,000.
A little bit of inflation and a little bit. It's just they've added cost.
Yeah. I don't think a £10,000 bike is £7,000 better than a £3,000 bike, and I don't think a £3,000 bike is £2,000 better than a £1,000 bike.
We should plot a graph. Where's the sweet spot? £2,000.
I think it is something like that.
Yeah. For someone who's really into cycling.
Yeah.
You can get absolute banger of a bike for £2,000.
I think we should explore this, shouldn't we?
I think the other problem is when you're in the cycling space for so long, you almost become desensitized to these values. Because I remember when I first got into cycling, and I think everyone does this. You're like, okay, well, what's your budget for a bike? And you'd be like, £300 is a lot of money. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, there's people. So we've done a series of videos on cheaper bikes, more affordable bikes. We did one on a £350 Decathlon rim brake alloy bike, and it performed fantastically. Definitely take it out and do all your smash up rides in the hills, whatever. And the response to that from our core audience was like, wow, like it's great you're covering really, really affordable bikes. That's such good value. You can get them £350, really. Then the video has started being recommended to people on YouTube who are not into cycling anymore. This is just broader audience who might be cycling to work, and the comments shifted. So if you like filter it by new comments, you can see all the new people that are watching it, and they're going, God, £350 for a bike. You spend £350 on a push bike. It's like, well, that's how normal people think about bikes. We are just brainwashed.
And there's other sports that are like this. Like the only one I can think of is like anything to do with horses, equestrian, anything like that. It's assumed that you spend a lot of money. Whereas dog sports, which I'm also into, all stingy as hell. Everything has to be cheap as hell. And it is the same thing. So I think you almost, as you say, like £300, when I was getting into cycling, £300 seemed, I ended up using my bike to work scheme and ended up getting a £2,000 bike in the end, didn't I?
But that was after I did a lot of work to
convince me.
It's actually quite an interesting story about how I got you into cycling. So, because when I met Emily, I was doing a lot of bike riding, and I'd already had my Moss bike. So I had a custom steel bike that cost God knows how many thousands of pounds, and I still have it to this day, and I love it. It's beautiful. Emily was just like, oh yeah, cycling seems cool. I'll buy a bike. And we ended up buying Emily a kid's bike that was about £300 from a weird little shop that had like a basket on it. And it was just kind of like a town bike, but a kid's one, so it was light as possible. And I was like, well, this is just something we can pootle around town on, and we'll see if Emily enjoys it. And then you were like, actually, this is kind of fun, but this bike is completely unusable.
Yeah, I modded it. I got rid of the basket. I got rid of the mud guards. It was as light as it possibly could be, and it was fine. But
it's like kids cranks and kids gearing and stuff. It was all right for like.
It was fine. It was fine to like ride to the gym and stuff like that.
So then it was like, actually, I'm going to get a bike, and I was like, what is the absolute maximum amount of money you would be willing to spend on a bike? And I think at the time you said £500, and I said, okay, give me £500. And then I gave you a £2,000 custom-made steel bike that was absolutely beautiful.
Was that the first one? My first one was my Specialized.
It was the Moss.
Was it?
Yeah. We made you a Moss bike, so I got you a custom-made steel bike.
You told me it was £500.
Because I knew you would say no. Yeah. And it was absolutely beautiful. It was the one that had you had your Brooks handlebars on it, so it was like a cruiser style upright position
Those
that could be
handlebars alone
converted.
were £70. The grips.
Yep.
Nice.
You had like a £150 Brooks saddle, and then it was built in a way that we could convert it to a drop bar bike should you want to do that, which we did end up doing. So then we converted it to a drop bar bike, and you're like, actually, I kind of like this. And then you wanted to get, but you know, it was built as a town bike, so it weighed quite a lot. Which the smaller you are, the more you notice that. And then you were like, actually, I've got to cycle to work. I'm going to get myself a road bike. And yeah, it was.
And that was also £2,000. So I mean, it got out of control very quickly, didn't it?
I think the only reason we're talking about light is, especially historically, or ultimately, one of my focuses with getting Emily into cycling was, if Emily has a bike that's enjoyable to use, it's more likely that Emily is going to ride bikes more. So I was willing to spend my money secretly to get Emily a better bike to increase the chances that Emily goes, actually, this is really enjoyable. I want to do more of it.
Yeah, weight was important in terms of, you know, I was looking at upright bikes and some of them are like 20 kilos or something like that. So when we talk about weight, I'm not talking about I needed a 5 kilo bike, but it needed to be able to pick it up if I dropped it kind of
Can
thing.
you get it up a set of stairs?
Literally.
Just things like that that matter to people.
Which is where it lived in our house.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where's the sweet spot, do you reckon, of this is an enjoyable bike to ride, like in money?
Well, the stuff that we've had recently has been enjoyable to ride, like the decathlon bikes.
Yeah. I would say the jump from the 350, 400 pound ones to 800 pounds was a huge jump in. Like, do you remember when you got on it outside Decathlon and you were like, oh, this feels amazing? And that you want that reaction from people? Like that's what I feel like I want to gift someone that if I was to buy them a present of a bike and have them experience what I experience when I ride my nice expensive bikes, what's the minimum money?
I think if you wanted to give someone a bike, probably that has already ridden a road bike, and then go, whoa, it's the £800 Decathlon bike.
Yeah.
And that's mostly because of the geometry and the 105 shifters. So you put your hands on those shifters and it just feels right and the geometry's right. But if someone wasn't a roadie, you would give them that bike and they'd be like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Can I put a flat bar on this?
Yeah. We should probably point out here, £800 Decathlon bike is not built the same as an £800 Specialized. In fact, that doesn't even exist.
No, it must do.
What, £800 Specialized?
I think there is still a really cheap
It's a rim
Specialized
brake
LA.
version of it. Yeah, maybe.
It's probably rim brake, isn't it?
But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the shifters won't feel nice.
Right. So when I used to race and I wanted a fast bike, I had, and a bike that looked good.
Yeah.
I approached it very differently to a lot of people. I used to get really well-respected top-end alloy frame sets and then build them up with top-end everything.
For the people at home, that was Specialized LA Sprint.
And also a
Cannondale
CAD 12.
CAD 12. Okay, yeah.
Both of which are very good frames.
Similar sort of frames.
Well, the Sprint is aero tubing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I suppose so. But in terms of feel, like their alloy aggressive geometry.
Yes, they're race bikes, but they're alloy versions of them. Mm-hmm. But then I had a rim brake Dura Race group set that I bought on Wiggle for £900. That I used to basically move from bike to bike. So I would have either. So I had the Specialized Sprint, LA Sprint, or the Cannondale CAD 12 with Dura Race group set, Parcours wheels in 60, 50 mil, 60 mil, whichever ones they were. I can't remember. Carbon seat post, carbon saddle. I had carbon bars at a point, but then I went back to alloy bars and an alloy stem. So it was like as top end as you could get for an alloy rim brake bike. Would have cost, either one of them would have cost all in all about $2,500. But in theory, the performance would have been on par with a carbon version, which would have been half a kilo lighter, if that. Because I think my CAD 12 was about 7.3, 7.4 kilos. It was a light bike. Bear in mind, they're the smallest frames I could get my hands on, which always helps in terms of weight. And they were great bikes, you know. I raced both of those bikes at my level, which was fine.
You could race both of those bikes at much higher levels.
Oh,
You'd be
yeah.
absolutely fine. In fact, I ended up racing a bike only in a local crit elite level, a specialized alloy frame, which was actually repainted to say S-Works on the side, which I got on at eBay. And I had like Ultegra 10-speed on it and stuff. So it was good. It was good parts. But yeah, I'd like broken my other bike for some reason. So I raced that for like one crit. And it was fine. Like you can definitely do it. You can definitely do it.
I feel
win?
like
It's a different story.
if I was going to attempt to do that now, what historically cost me £2,500 would now cost me £5,000.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just feel like inflation to me.
For a bike of the same standard, I disagree. Harry Mack, I know his bike fell apart, but he put together a bike which was significantly lighter and faster than what you're talking about for half the money.
But
so if he spent double on it and spent...
Most people aren't even going to consider AliExpress.
No, I realise that. But if you got a 105 group set online and you know how to put it together yourself, you got that for £600. You could start with that as a base. You could get an old rim brake frame now, very cheap online. You get a great bike. Get a great bike for less than £2,000.
Like what?
And it would be as good, if not better, than what you have.
What do you think you would get?
Similar, well, like the old Addict. You can find old carbon Scott Addict frames.
So you're talking about the second-hand market?
Yeah, I guess second-hand, yeah. Yeah. Or discontinued. It's not bikes that are being produced now because the price tags are higher for the same thing.
But
in some cases.
I feel like the only way you would get something comparable, bearing in mind part of that, at least my consideration at the time, is weight.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that as disc without it being astronomically expensive. It would have to be rim brake, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because the disc frames are more modern and have a higher price tag.
So is that what's changed? Because of the move to disc, it's just allowed this like increase in price.
And you're locked into having to use a disc wheel and all these things. Yeah.
And it all adds weight. And the only way to shave off that weight, granted, in the grand scheme of things, weight isn't important. However, if it was important to me because I wanted a 7-kilo bike, for example, I would have to go top end everything as it is now, which would be stupid money. But you could still get a light alloy frame, but then would you get a light alloy frame that's disc? Probably not. Interesting. Maybe we should explore the cheapest 7-kilo modern bike. What can we build? How cheap can we make a 7-kilo bike? Or 7.5. 7.5's like a very light bike that is achievable. Once you go into 7.5, you start having to look at like this weird parts and things like that.
With at least 11 speed on it.
Yeah.
Is that the rules? What's the rules?
It needs to be like a modern group.
Because you can make a really light bike with 10-speed Dura-Ace and you can find that so cheap.
But rim, you're talking about.
Oh, well, it would have to be disc.
Yeah, disc.
Yeah, but then you could do rim brake shifters. You could do what Decathlon do, put rim brake shifters, cable shifters with the hybrid calipers and things like that.
That's interesting. That's
what I do.
That's the way to save. Well, that's only saves. That doesn't actually save that much weight.
But then you definitely have to find a frame that doesn't have internal routing because then that messes up the
performance.
Cabled discs with internally routed cables. It just doesn't work very well.
I think it would be hard to make a 7.5 kilo disc bike for like a couple of grand
for decent money, potentially.
Whereas in the rim brake world, it feels quite easy.
Yeah. Whereas brands struggle with it, like the cheaper. Just years ago, I got the more modestly priced Villia Aero bike, which was disc, and it was significantly heavier, almost too heavy.
It wasn't too heavy, only because you were thinking about performance.
Yes. Yeah.
We asked a few experts, didn't we? A few industry experts. The question: Has stuff always been expensive? Is it the worst it's ever been now? Just kind of gets, because I think if you ask most people, they'll say yes, but we kind of wanted to find out from people who'd worked in bike shops for a while, what have they noticed? So we asked your friend, long-term bike mechanic and ex-GB racer, Brian.
Yeah, I was on WhatsApp last night, so I thought I'd message a couple of people and see what their opinion was about price changes.
You talk about WhatsApp like it's like a social media platform.
On
I was
WhatsApp.
just browsing WhatsApp.
Just scrolling WhatsApp,
Yeah.
scrolling through, seeing all the stuff. There is actually that on WhatsApp. People's stories. Did you not know that?
I don't want to know.
Oh, it's great. There's only about 2 people who use it.
What did Brian say then?
He posted a series of stories back. He worked in Surbiton Cycles and used to race for GB on the road and cyclocross. So a long-time buckshop guy as well. He goes, hell yes, it's more expensive, but then again, everything is. Top-end road bikes used to be about 7 or 8K not very long ago. Now it's more like 12, 13K. You could buy a top-end bike for a few £1,000s back in the 90s. Then once you get into upgrades, people with more money than sense can easily spend 20K with ceramic this and that, lighter weight bits, etc. Even things as basic as top-end tyre is now 80, 90 pounds, whereas before the pandemic, they were around 45, 50 pounds. Top-end saddle would be £150 max, and now they're nearly £400. Shoes, the same thing. Top-end shoe has probably doubled in price over the last 10 years. He makes good points. On all of these things he's listed, it's either because they're 3D printed, tubeless, heat moldable. You know, there's all these new features that are cool, but unnecessary in these products. You know, you're not getting you can get a 3D printed saddle, but it's not really any lighter than because of how it looks. People are like, oh, it's got these weird honeycomb thing. People want that, don't they?
I don't think it looks terrible.
I'll tell you why.
I think it makes my skin crawl.
Capitalism,
exactly. Any emerging market that becomes large and has enough consumers in it, people make products to satisfy them at all levels. And you actually see this with everything. Like, look at an iPhone. An iPhone always used to be expensive, but might have cost you 400, 500 pounds. Literally, like, iPhones are like $1,000, 1,500. You will never have enough money to buy all of the stuff that is aimed at you.
That's depressing, Emily.
It is. But this is the thing, isn't it? So you almost have to change your mindset.
Want less.
Want less.
Well, I definitely don't want the majority of those. I definitely don't want a 3D printed saddle.
You've literally already.
Although the other day I went,
bought one.
3D printed.
Isn't there one here somewhere?
I bought one for a future video, but I don't want it.
No, I disagree. I think in the back of your mind, you're going like, I'll have that later. Lovely.
No, definitely not. It's made by Physique. I would rather eat my own hair and ride that.
You're going to put it on a display bike, aren't you? Because it looks good.
It doesn't look good. I think they look horrible.
Agreed.
The 3D printed thing, it's like that. There's that weird fear of repeating patterns or whatever it is, and that's how it makes me feel. Yeah.
So who else have we got?
Next up on the list was Brown, whose real name is not Brown. Do you know his real name's Mark?
I do know, yeah.
Pro mobile mechanic, pro cycling mechanic as well, and he's been in the industry for a very long time. He's been in our videos before. He said, there's no doubt it's got easier to spend more. There are more high-end bling options, ceramic speeds, OSPW, tubeless tires, etc. It's like every part on the bike has an option to spend a ton on. I worked for Specialized at one time, so my yardstick for bikes is always the Specialized Basic Alley and the S-Works Tarmac. The Tarmac is almost 3 times more than it was 15 years ago. Granted, there's a lot more technology now, Di2 gears, carbon wheels. The Alley is about an extra half again. But cycling can be as expensive as you want to make it. I remember going to Perth, Australia to visit my sister, going from my Pinarello Dogma with Di2 and zips to a giant alloy frame with 8-speed Sora. I was disappointed. I fitted some fast tires and my usual saddle and pedals and had some of my most memorable riding miles. So it's important to remember it's not just always about how much you spend. Shout out to Brown, actually. If you're in the Northeast and you need some mobile mechanic work, hit up brownsbikes.co.uk.
Oh, Brown.
I love Brown. He's such a nice guy. But he's, 100% right. You can... It's that kind of ride. The ride he has highlighted there. You know, Brown, sometimes he races TTs. And you want a fast bike for that. I get it. He gets your PB down, all that stuff. It's competitive. But the ride he's talking about there, where he was in Australia and having a nice time, you know, a normal bike ride, what most people do, the 8-speed Sora bike is absolutely fine.
So I've been on a couple of trips where I've rented bikes. And then I bought a bike box Allen, so I never had to do it again. And it isn't because of the spec of the bike. It's because of the position.
Yeah.
When I've got my road bike position dialed in, I just love that. I love the feel of that position more than anything.
Some people are a lot more reactive to that than others.
But I'm not like a hyper. I don't notice like half a centimeter difference in my saddle height. But I know I just have a feel on a bike, and my bike, I get dialed into that. So where I've rented a bike, even where I've taken my own pedals and saddle, it'll be like too long or too up or just whatever, and I can't get it dialed in, and it just doesn't feel right. But it's never about the weight of the bike or the group set or anything like that. For me, it's just like the feel. If I could rent a bike, if I could go away, rent a bike, and I knew it was going to be like my bike, so I could just dial it in exactly how I want it, then I would do that every single time.
Obviously, it depends where you go. If you're in a place like Perth, did you say Perth? Like it's a city, you probably find a model that you've ridden before, and he's done the right stuff. Like I would do the same. Pedals, probably some nice tires. If you're confident switching them over and stuff, maybe it's tubeless and pain in the ass.
I definitely wouldn't.
And saddle.
I wouldn't faff with tires.
You wouldn't?
No. Pedals and saddle. Pedal saddle definite. And then I would consider, if I could find out enough information beforehand, I would take like a stem, maybe, depending on, like if I
knowing
knew,
what was on there, you could change it.
If I'd be like, oh, well, I know I want to change it to this because that's going to be more in line with what I want.
Adjustable stem.
Okay, I will.
You get ones with you can change the angle, so you could do the height and that'd be good.
That would actually be quite good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, or just a suitcase full of stems.
Well, a lot of the issue for me is I like riding bikes that are probably smaller than I should, and I'm already at the small end. So it's very so I've got to the point where I actually ride like 49, 50 centimeter frames when I should probably be riding 51, 52. Whereas getting a 52 from a rental is usually quite hard. So you always end up on a 54. And then I'm like, well, I like riding what is essentially a 50. It just never works for me.
How annoying is that? There's not anything, there's rarely stuff smaller than a 49.
It's probably different now. And the reason I say that is a decade ago, or even 5 years ago, rental companies didn't even consider the fact that women might want to rent a bike.
No, not at all.
Whereas they probably do consider it more frequently now, and therefore there should be smaller bikes available. I would hope.
Smaller people and women are still undercatered for by the bike
problem.
industry. No, yes, they are the problem. Just stretch yourself. No, is it just so badly catered for in the world of cycling? Before we get too off topic, let's summarize this question. Has bike stuff got too expensive?
Yes.
And no.
Excellent.
Excellent. Time for another round of overrated or underrated. I'm going to read out a list of things, and you're going to tell me if they're overrated or underrated. Gravel bikes with flat bars.
Underrated.
Underrated.
They're slower than gravel bikes with drop bars. From my experience, I've ridden both. But there's just something really fun about a gravel bike, a one by gravel bike with flat bars. I have one and I enjoy it.
It's the same as an XC bike. It's just fun. It makes you feel like you are a kid. With flat bars make me feel like I'm a kid riding a bike. That's all you do, isn't it? You don't ride a drop bar bike when you're a child, so it feels fun. It feels nostalgic. It's good.
It's definitely not I would 100% not have a flat bar gravel bike over a drop bar one. However, if I had so many bikes that I had the option of both, then I would add it on as a secondary.
Yeah.
So I'm getting rid of my flat bar gravel bike because I basically don't use it anymore.
Yeah. The annoying thing around here is getting through barriers. That actually puts me off riding the XC bike sometimes.
Yep.
But it's easier to do a wheelie. Underrated. Hill climbs.
Underrated.
Underrated. I have a question, and you guys might not know the answer. We might have to Google it. Are there hill climb events in other places in the world? I know there's like the Taiwan KOM challenge. There's events like that, but are there like the UK hill climb sort of event? Time trial from the bottom of a hill to the top of a hill.
I don't know. Why don't you ask the audience?
Ask the audience. Please put in the comment section down below. I'm sure there is, but clearly it's not as much of a scene. Whereas here we have a season where all the hill climbs happen. That's my guess.
Winter as well.
And they are brilliant. They're probably the best cycling spectator sport.
Why did they decide that hill climbing season in the UK would be winter? Because it's always bleak places with like slippy roads and things.
I guess it's like squeezing it into a bit of the season where people still have fitness, but it's not interrupting a road season because there's just not enough space in the calendar, is there? You want spectators to come out
in winter.
Yeah, but it's still just, and leave it any later and it gets too cold. It gets snowy and stuff.
You could also say that about football, rugby, hockey, all of like the winter season sports in this country.
It's to keep people happy during winter because otherwise people would get very sad.
Right, what's next up?
Press ups.
Underrated.
Underrated. But Emily's face.
Patrick Stewart. He claims that doing 100 push-ups a day his entire life is what's kept him like good in old age.
Patrick Stewart. Is that guy from X-Men?
And numerous other things, yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
They're very good. It's a good workout. It's a full body workout.
Yeah.
Overrated. No.
Beans on toast.
Unbelievably underrated. Why do Americans hate beans on toast?
They haven't had it properly.
Toast, bread in toaster, make it nice and crispy. Bucket loads of butter.
Well, that's it. The
non-dairy
key here,
version if you want.
Exactly.
Tons of it. Heinz baked beans or any alternative, but preferably ones with loads of salt and sugar in a pan. Stew them slowly for like 20, 30 minutes so they go all congealed and globbly. Smash them on top. And if you really want to send it to a next level, get some grated cheese on top of that.
Woo-hoo!
Heaven. Fiber, carbohydrates, good carbohydrates, protein, fat if you want to add loads of butter and cheese, which you obviously do. What a meal.
Can I say possibly an underrated type of bean is the Branston baked bean.
So you mean, like...
The brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It comes in like a black can with beans on the front, funnily enough. Yeah.
Oh, can you believe it?
Yeah, really good.
They are good.
However, Heinz ones have a ring pull easier. When I have cans in the cupboard and they haven't got a ring pull, I'm like, they just get pushed to a side. There's not enough time for that.
Emily doesn't like bean juice and it upsets me.
Oh.
I don't like excess bean juice because the problem is when they're in the can for too long, the beans sink to the bottom and all of the juice goes to the top. So I just don't like that first pour where you get all of the bean
Shake
juice.
it. You shake the can before you open it.
No. So
Jimmy took that
What?
so literally that he once put all of the beans into the sieve and then washed them under the thing.
Now that is overrated beans on toast.
And then he poured it on and then it was like, there you go. And I was like, what is this?
I was so excited. I was like, she is going to love this. I was like, this is going to be the best beans on toast she's ever had. And she's like, what the f have you done?
What type of bean is a bean?
I do know this.
A bean.
Oh, I do know this.
It's not haricot bean.
I can't remember.
White bean. It's just a white bean.
What's your thoughts on cold baked beans?
Love them. I have even had cold baked beans on toast
Nah.
where I was cutting out a step to speed up the process. Toast the bread, butter, cold baked beans poured straight on.
Oh, but hot bread.
Yeah.
Toasted bread.
And then just eat. I always, whenever I do have baked beans, I'll always have a spoon whilst I'm cooking.
Savage.
Phenomenal.
You're a savage.
They are even better. I'll be honest, cold baked beans are better than warm baked beans.
Horrible. I am with you though. I do get rid of a little bit of the juice. Bean juice.
Oh, you two weirdos. I'll make you some sieve beans sometime.
Next up, cats.
Overrated. They're the most hideous creatures in the world.
Hideous.
Horrible things.
I think some cats are really nice. Coach Ken has a little cat. He's very sweet.
No.
He's a bit fat.
I think emotionally I connect with cats quite a lot. But I think they're absolute little shit.
Because you're very like them.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably like a clash of like personality more than anything.
Dogs.
Correctly rated.
Yes, everyone loves dogs.
And they should because they are phenomenal.
They're the loveliest creatures on earth, aren't
They
they?
are,
Yeah. Nice. You're not like a dog.
No.
It's time for Fluff Up of the Week.
Do we have to rock out?
Whoops.
Oh,
So
I've got a head rush after that.
we forgot to add one last week. Is that the Fluff Up? No. The Fluff Up is We put together some slat wall, which you might be able to see in one of the shots. Maybe.
Probably not.
No, you can't. There's some slat wall, which is stuff that is installed in shops to hang up things. We've hung loads of tyres on it. And you have to put in these little strips where you lock in the hooks to. You have to put all the strips in all the way up the slat wall. And I put them all in upside down.
I was making sure you didn't use the word "we" there, and you didn't. So good,
Yeah.
Well done.
I put them in all upside down.
Then we
and
fixed
then we
it to
only
the wall.
discovered, fixed it to the wall, and then I discovered that they were the wrong way around, which was really annoying because we had to slide them out really awkwardly. So I was up a ladder for about 20 extra minutes.
Another thing I can add to this, which is as part of our phase 500 of the studio, we've moved the podcast setup again, and I was meant to get a longer XLR cable for your microphone, which is why it is now black and not bluey green like my one, bluey purple. So I had to go back out this morning to the local music shop and buy another cable rather than.
I love my new cable.
Yeah, good.
Well, good. Yeah. And our comfy new chairs.
Oh, it's very nice, isn't it?
From IKEA.
The only problem with them is that Bella thinks that she's now allowed to sit on your knee constantly. So every so often, if you're watching on camera, you will just see her face in front of one of your faces.
I enjoy
that's
that.
Not a problem. That's the best bit about the podcast.
It makes me warmer as well, and I'm freezing. I need some sort of indoor. Everyone made fun of me for my rain jacket last week. Yeah. So I thought I'd brave it. I need an indoor jacket.
You dress like a child.
Yeah.
You just I just put my shorts and t-shirt on every time, no matter what the weather is. Whereas what adults do is they go, "Oh, it's 7 degrees outside. I should probably put a jumper on."
No, I reject.
You don't even
7
Do
degrees.
you even own jumpers?
No. I think I got a wild one.
Dress like a child
because I own the company. I've worn it a couple of times. And I'm like, I could get into this, and I forget.
Yeah. I think we should all get smoking jackets.
Oh,
you joke! Yeah. I was literally looking at them yesterday.
I can believe that.
That's a shout. That. Let's finish up with listeners' takeover. Got a question from Nathan.
Wasn't it Nathan last week as well?
Yeah, I hope it's a different Nathan. Who knows? Emily knows. Okay. Hi, Jimmy, Francis, and Emily. I occasionally see people struggling on bikes when I'm out for a ride. And while I'd like to give them advice if I can, I don't want to come off as condescending or rude or be seen as an elitist snob looking down on people. Do you have any advice on how to approach people and offer them tips if they appear to be struggling?
Yes.
King regards.
Good. Nice. My advice is don't.
Yeah, likewise.
They might not be struggling. You might just think that they are. They might not want advice. And if they did, they'd probably seek it from somewhere.
Yeah, they might ask you. If you're on a group ride, occasionally I've had people go like, "Oh, can you help me with this?" And it's perfect.
The most offended I've ever been as a cyclist is riding with one of my favourite people to ride bikes with, which is Chris Hall. Mm-hmm. And Chris is one of those people that bangs on about being rubbish at climbing, but always breezes up a climb chatting away. And I can't remember where we were. There was an occasion we were riding up this climb and he decided to start pushing me and I lost it. I absolutely lost it, but only because it was condescending. It wasn't his intention. He was just like, "Oh, I'll just give Jimmy a little push." La 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 la.
Yeah.
Everyone's having a great time.
However,
I don't even think it was. He just did it. I don't even think it was like particularly hard or whatever. And it just infuriated me.
However, I'm sure we've been in situations where. Was it you? Were we at any point during our Spanish bike packing where you were like requested a push up the hill?
I can't remember. Probably. Because I was probably trying to get the day done. And therefore it was easier.
It's quick, it's just get it done. Get it done. I've definitely pushed a lot of people up climbs before, but it's always been a request. Never.
The difference is if you're friends with someone, that's when you can kind of offer, like to a stranger, it's very, very, very difficult to not be condescending, isn't it?
I guess if you know this person and you still want to offer advice, probably what I do is, you're having a coffee afterwards or whatever, and just offer an option of advice is probably what I would do, i.e., I don't even know. I couldn't even possibly work out how to word it.
I've got an example. So if, for example, they're struggling on hills and you think it's because they haven't got the appropriate gearing, you could say, oh, how are you finding the hills around here? And then let them say, oh, you know, they're quite hard, da-da-da. It's like, well, one thing that I tried or one thing that helped my friend Francis is da-da-da-da-da.
Emily's so good, isn't she?
Do you know what I mean? Rather than going, your gears are too hard. You have to verify with them where the thing you think they're struggling with is
They're
a struggle.
actually struggling.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you can just ask if there's, for example, someone repairing a puncture and you can see they're struggling with it or they might be taking a while. You can say, would you like some help?
Yeah.
That's all
and
it
then
takes.
if they say no
all it
means no,
takes.
great.
Yeah.
No means no.
Yeah. No, I want to practice. Cool.
But that's if someone says to me, are you struggling? I'm going to go, no.
Even if you are.
I'm not struggling. What do you mean? I don't know, actually. I guess it depends what mood I'm in.
It's hard, isn't
Yeah.
it? But also what makes you think you have the right answer as well? Like, so Nathan, this email was like slightly longer, but I tried to make it a bit more succinct because you always tell me off if I leave the full email and it's really long. But he said something like a guy once came up to him and told him that his saddle was too low. And he said, it was actually correct. My saddle was too low, but he said it in a really condescending way. He said that he used to be a bike fitter and he used to race in the 90s and da-da-da. And he said that I look stupid, which obviously isn't a good way to do it. But also, like, how do you know if someone's saddle's too low? I don't.
You don't. There's lots of people. I know people who have to run a low saddle because they have problems with their back and things like that. They've had surgery. There's a guy on, I stumbled on his page the other day on Instagram. Can't remember his name. I'll try and find it. And he rides with the shortest cranks you have ever seen. So, and he posts videos like they're so short. It's striking when you first come across the videos. Probably why he posts the videos. However, it's a medical thing. You know, it's like a physiological constraint, should I say.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know what's going on with people's bodies. And often it's best to not ask at all, or if you get to know them better, you know, and it feels right, then sometimes it's fine to ask, and that's cool.
I guess there are scenarios like, for example, if you can see someone's like rim brake is literally on,
or if something's dangerous,
Yeah.
and you're on a group ride with them, and it's like someone's back wheel is wonky or something like that. You can I'd say there's a time and place. There's a time and place.
So I hope that helped, Nathan, but I feel like it didn't. That's all for this episode. If you have a question or a story, send it to wildonespodcast@cademedia.co.uk. Before you go, give us a like, and if you're listening and enjoy our chats, give us a 5-star review, because obviously that's what you should do. We would be eternally grateful. See you all soon.
Eternally.
That's what it says on the sheet. I'm like the, what's his name? Anchorman.
Just reading
Ron
exactly.
Burgundy.
I'm going to edit your outro next week.
Francis is the greatest human ever to have lived. Jimmy is a tood. What's a tood, Francis? That's what it says. That's what it says.